So today we are going to review the MedSIS Competence Committee Review Dashboard. This is for all of the programs using the CBME module, and it's like a new tab in the dashboard that you guys are used to seeing. So, you see your EPAs and supporting documentation and assessments, and now there's a new tab called Review Dashboard. So there's some administrative tasks for you guys to do to get these dashboards set up, and that needs to take place before your faculty and your residents can go in and see anything. It will just kind of be a blank tab until you do this part of it. So I'm going to go over a slideshow presentation. It's mainly screenshots of how to go through this process. And I think that I'll use these slides as your user guide. So, normally in Word, we kind of do a user guide on how to do this and how to do that. This is a little bit more lengthy, so I think it's just easier to digest and read and follow when it's in a slideshow presentation. So I will make sure this gets posted on our website and send everybody the link to it so that when you go back to your desk or back to work, you can get started on setting up your Competence Committee Review dashboard. I know some people like to log in as we're doing the training and be kind of trying it out for themselves. I think what I'm going to do is go through the slides, and I'm just hoping that everyone can kind of pay attention to that part of it because there's just some comments and notes that I want to make about certain things. And then what I'll do is after I go through the slides, I will log into MedSIS and I will go through the process in the system as well. And if at that time, you kind of digest better by logging in yourself, then totally fine. Okay, so our agenda for today is we are going to look at setting up a Competence Committee review template. And this is going to cover how to create review periods. We'll talk about requirements, in general, how the template comes together, how you assign that template to your trainees, how to access the trainees review dashboard once you've assigned them the template, and how to customize a trainee's competence committee review, if they have extra learning needs or they need extra reviews and things like that. And then, the second part will be actually navigating the dashboard and how it facilitates your competence committee review meetings. So what is the dashboard? I just took this from the email that went out to you for signing up for training. It's just intended to streamline your competence committee processes, to help facilitate your committee meetings, to house and centralize all of the relevant documentation that goes into a competence committee review, to improve the transparency of what is being reviewed as part of a decision-making process. So, the coaches and the committee members and the residents, they're all seeing in one dashboard what is being taken into consideration when decisions are being made about their progress, and also to alleviate some of the prep work that you guys are doing in terms of emailing documents back and forth to academic coaches or file reviewers. I'm working with postgrad quite a bit to try and have lots of training sessions and lots of demos for faculty, and we really want to empower them to feel comfortable going into the system and using it themselves, as opposed to so heavily relying on administrators to do the legwork, because everything will be available to them in one place. So I don't think there's any reason they can't go in and look at it themselves. So this is what, let me just make this bigger. This is what a review dashboard looks like. So you guys are familiar with these tabs across the top. You've been using them so far. And now there's a new one called Review Dashboard. And this is what it will look like after you have created the template. So when your committee members and your academic coaches and your residents log in and go to this tab, and even for yourself, this is what they will see once you have done the prep work for it. And so basically, like I said, it's here to have all of the steps that will go into your competence committee review. You can assign who's responsible for the step, and you can attach a template file to the step as well. So for example, number 3 is the resident reflection report. The trainee is responsible for this step, and there's a resident reflection report template that they need to actually download and fill out and upload back here. So everybody can go in, they can download their templates, they can fill it out and save it. And then, I'll show you how this works, but they would re-upload the new one, and then it would be sitting under this column called files. It will show when their step is complete and when they've completed the step. And then you can see at the bottom here, it also tracks for every review, the date the meeting took place, the date the decisions were ratified, what the resident's overall status is at this time, the purpose of the meeting. So was it a regular review, or was there intended to make a decision to promote the trainee? The outcome, were they just, was there a decision to promote them? And then promotion, are they being promoted to stage 2, 3, 4, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's a section for comments here. This section is really just if there's any kind of high level notes that you want to make, or like your committee members want to make about the review, then they can add it in there. It's really not intended to replace a document or be putting some kind of letter in there or anything like that. So this is what the finished product looks like, and what I'm going to show you is how we get to this point. If I can go. How come my slides won't change? There we go. Okay, so when you log into MedSIS, you have this curriculum button. You're familiar with it. You've been using it. And then you're going to see on the left-hand side in my screenshot that you have some lookup tables that are available to you. And so one of the things that we need to do as a first step is to create a review period. A review period is just an indicator of the period of time that is being reviewed for these residents. So if you have a review on October 1st and it's for July 1st to September 30th, then you would create your review period for that period of time, and then you can assign it to the review to say this competence committee review was intended to review this resident from July 1st to September 30th. Each program will have different review periods based on their program's needs and when they meet to review. And in your own lookup table tab here, you'll see a list of all of your own review periods as you create them. Okay, so you can see here, I've clicked add new review period. I've given it a name, and I've put through the calendar the start date and the end date, and I've selected my program. I would suggest when you're naming the review period to name it something that makes sense, name it something that's easily identifiable. If you just say review 1, I mean, once you kind of go on for a few years and start having this list of review periods, you just want to make sure you're naming it something clear. Me personally, I've just been naming it what the actual dates are. I think it's the clearest way to go, but whatever is going to help keep you organized. Okay, and then the next thing you need to do is on this same screen where I was at my lookup tables from the left-hand side where we just did review period. Now we're going to switch over to the first tab, which is called requirements. And the requirements are the steps that need to take place as part of the review. So I just showed you this on that review dashboard screenshot that they had a learner summary report was part of it, a resident reflection report, an academic coach report. So you are going to identify what all of the steps are or required items to be reviewed as part of the competence committee review. Again, I say to name these something that makes sense, that are very clear and concise. And also you can modify these requirements, but I just want you to note that if you modify a requirement in here, it will be reflected in all of the reviews that you have used this step for. So for example, if you made a spelling mistake and you've applied this template to all of these residents and you want to go in and say, oh, I spelled academic coach wrong and fix it, that's great. But if you are using the term resident reflection report for a few years and then your program decides that's not a proper name for it, we want to call it something different like resident narrative requirement or something like that. You don't want to change this requirement. You want to add a new one for what your new term is called and start using it going forward. Because if you make changes to an existing requirement in here, it will update everybody's dashboards where you have used that requirement before. I see the chat flashing. but I can never find it when I'm in presentation view.
That was just me, Chantel.
Oh, okay. Will you flag me if there's a question? Because every time I'm in my
Okay.
like presentation view and I try and open the chat, I can never seem to find it.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so again,
Chantel,
yep,
it's Wendy. Sorry,
hi, Wendy.
I'm on an iPad, so it's difficult to type.
No
Just
worries.
one quick question regarding the file naming. So, as you alluded to, as time progresses, you want things to be, very clear so that they don't, they're not vague within the dashboard. But if we were to name it by like a date, should we do it like a numeric value so it'll all group all the documents together in this dashboard?
So it already, it will group it all together by review. So how I just showed you in that very initial screenshot, which I can go back to here. So see how in the gray line, it says TTD review, so transition to discipline review, and then it's got the steps and it's got the bottom component. There will be one of these for every review that this resident has to do. So you'll be able to sequence the requirements in the order that they should appear in the dashboard. You can call them whatever you want. And then if you're attaching template files, same thing, likely name your file something that's clear. But for every review, you will organize what steps you want to be a part of it. So maybe someone who's brand new and this is their first review, maybe they only have 2 things to look at because they're just brand new. But maybe on your resident who's like just about to leave or like right in the depths of their program, there might be multiple things that need to be reviewed. And so you can have multiple steps as part of that review. And so your review period, you'll have lots of them. So you'll name a review period, like this transition to discipline review would have a review period of July 1st to September 30th. And then maybe your next review is foundations and it's for a 6-month period of time. So you would just assign what all of your typical review periods are and assign it to the template, and then you assign the template to all of the applicable residents. Does that make sense?
Yes, actually, it does. I do have a couple of other questions, but I'll hold off and maybe see if they're addressed throughout your presentation.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so now I've gone to add a new requirement, and here again, I'm assigning a name to it that I think, the residents are going to understand, the committee member is going to understand, and the coaches, it's clear to everybody what I'm looking for here. And again, all programs will likely have different requirements, and when you go in here, you put in the name and then you select your program. So you will only have access to assign it to your own program, and you'll only have access to your own program's requirements. So now that we've done our review periods and we've put in all the possible requirements that we might want to use for our competence committee reviews, now we actually go and make the template. So you guys have likely noticed that on the left menu in the CBME module, there's an item called program curriculum, and it lists all of the programs. So you are going to go to this screen and search up your own program and click on it. And you're going to see a screen that looks like this. And one of the tabs is called Requirement Checklist. And this is where we're going to create the template. And this is where you'll see all of your templates over time that you have created. They will all live here. Okay, so we've gone to add new. We're going to name this review. We're going to give it a sequence number. So I'm saying for all of the residents I'm going to apply this to, it's going to be the first review in their review dashboard. And the review dates that we're looking at are October 1st to December 31st, 2020. And then we're going to save it out. Again, with the naming of the reviews or the templates, best to name it something. I know all the programs work differently and probably call reviews differently, but just to try and come up with like maybe a naming convention that's going to help you keep all of your reviews or your templates organized. So now that I've saved it, this is what it looks like as you have one of the reviews here. So it just looks like a colored block on the page. And now you want to assign this review to your residents. And so you're only going to assign it to the applicable residents. Nope, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. Before you assign it, You've created what your review is called, what the sequence is, and what the period is, and now you have to add the steps to the template. So when you click on the colored box, this screen like this will open up and you can see that it's empty. And on the right-hand side, it says add new requirement. And so when you click on that screen or on that button, you will see something that looks like this. So you are going to, from the drop down under requirement, your own list of requirements that you have made will populate there. So if you click on it, it's going to say either learner summary report or academic coach report or competence committee letter. And then you are going to indicate who is responsible for the requirement. You don't have access to name these roles. It's either going to be administrator, trainee, academic coach, or competence committee member. Those are the only 4 roles. You're going to say what number and order of this step should be. So if the learner summary report you want to be the first thing that gets looked at, then you can put that there. You can assign a due date. There's no notifications or anything that go out like that for it. But if you're just trying to keep things organized or help your residents stay on time, if they have to submit a reflection document or something like that, you can use the due date option. And then so in this first screenshot on the left, that's just saying, okay, if the learner summary report is a requirement, the admin is responsible for it, and then I'm going to save it. The second screenshot is if you have a template file that you want to assign to this step as part of this review, then you can do that. So in this next example, I put the academic coach or file reviewer report, who's responsible, the academic coach. This is going to be the second step in my list of requirements, that is part of this review. I'm not going to give it a due date, and I'm going to put our program's academic coach report template here so that when the coach logs in, they'll see that file there and they can download it and open it and complete it. So you have 2 options. One is you don't have to put any file, and the other one is you have the option to put the file. So once you've gone through and you've added all of your steps and all of your files, then your checklist will look something like this. So now you have each of your steps, who is responsible, and if there is applicable file template, you've added it there. So now this review is done. So now that you've created the template, now you want to assign it to the resident. So we're going to go back out of here, back to our colored box. We're going to click on the 3 dots in the top right corner, and we're going to go to assign. And what you're going to see, and you might have seen this in other sections of MedSIS, is like a bulk assign screen. So all of your residents will be listed here, and then you can go through and tick off who this template should apply to. So if it's the transition to discipline review, it's just my, first year residents who just started CBME. If it's your core review 2, then you might have to apply it to certain, PGY 2s or 3 residents. I have asked as an enhancement for some filters on this screen to try and help you guys. So, for programs that are a little bit bigger and have lots of residents, I said, can we add a filter in here that's like, just show me my PGY 1s, like filter it by PGY level, or also to filter it by stage. So show me all my stage 1 residents, show me all my stage 2 residents, just to try and narrow down your list a little bit to make it a little bit more helpful. So that's not in there yet, but it's on the next list of things that I have submitted for approval. One thing I want to mention is when you create this template and you assign it to residents, what it's doing is taking a copy of the template and copying it to that resident's profile. Once that process is done, if you were to go update that template, it's not going to update it for the residents you've already applied it to. It's only making changes from today and anybody new that you apply this template to. So the idea is if you do this transition to discipline template and you apply it to your PGY 1s, next year when your PGY 1s start, you already have that template there. You can go and update the review period for it and you apply it to all of your new residents. That way, like hopefully if, depending on how long your program is and how many reviews a resident has to undergo, you don't end up with like 1 million templates in your dashboard. you might only end up with like 6 or 8 or however many. And if you name them accordingly, then you know which residents you should always be applying this template to. And that way, if something changes, so if transition to discipline this year, 3 things got reviewed, but now, there's a new program requirement for my new transition to discipline residents that are starting in the new academic year, you can modify that template, you can add your new requirement, and then you would apply it to your new residents. So it's really just copying it to the resident's profile, and then it's done. So if you did need to make a change, like say you applied it to everybody and then you decided that there's an extra step in this review and now you've already applied the template, you can't go and add a step to the template and think that it's going to apply it to all of the residents. It doesn't work like that. So if that happened, you either need to go and delete the review from all of your residents, update your template and reapply, or go into each of your residents' profile and manually add in that new requirement. Is there any questions about that piece? Because I just feel like that's one that might cause a little bit of confusion once you guys get down to it. Okay. So now that you've assigned it to your residents, you're going to go into your Learner Curriculum tab, which again, you guys will be familiar with. This is where it lists all of your residents that are registered into your learning path. And you're going to click on one of your residents that you have assigned this template to. And now when you go to their review dashboard, this is what you're going to see. So there's all of the steps that you've put in your template, who's responsible for it, and your files that you attach to that template are all there ready to go for people to download and fill out. And then at the bottom, that is a standard, meeting date, decision ratified, overall status. Those fields are all static, like they just stay on every review across the board for all programs, for all reviews. And these items were defined by a competence committee review dashboard committee at the post-grad level. We had a working group for all of this, and also the drop downs for them will be kind of the drop-down values will be like decided or, at the PG level, and will be standard across the board for all programs as well. How to customize a trainee's competence committee review. So for trainees who might have more, fewer, or different requirements than other trainees, requirements can be added to an individual trainee's review dashboard. So if somebody has like enhanced education plans or remedial documentation, or I don't know, anything that might come up where it's something different than what everybody else has, you can add it just to that trainee's one review. On their individual dashboard, and also for trainees who might have more or different reviews than other trainees. So maybe it's an entirely different review, has entirely different steps, or maybe you have a resident who has extended training and needs more reviews than everybody else. There's flexibility to do this in the system as well. So if we go back to this residence dashboard and we click, you can see on the right corner, there's an add requirement button. And again, when you click on requirement, that list is the original list that you decided what are all the possible requirements for my program, for my templates, who's responsible. You're picking from only the 4 options available, administrator, trainee, academic coach, or competence committee. A due date, you can sequence it. So you can see I sequence this as number 5 because I already have 4 steps in my checklist, in my review template there. And then again, you can add a template file if it needs to go here, or under files, maybe there's no specific template, but you have documentation on file that should be reviewed. You would drag and drop it into the file section and you would save it out. So now we saved it, and you can see that number 5 is there, enhanced education plans, and the program administrator is responsible for uploading that documentation. Okay, I think that's it. So I'm just gonna stop sharing again for 1 second. Okay, so now I would like to actually go in the system. It's a little bit repetitive, but just because there's so many steps and this is brand new, I would like you guys to kind of see it as much as possible. So before I kind of log in and get into that, does anybody have any questions about what we've seen so far?
So Chantal, it's Wendy.
Yep.
So that was a very helpful overview, and the hands-on experience will be really helpful for us to master it. The one thing that I'm just wanting to clarify is, are each of the phases needed to be used? So you said transition to discipline, and then there's foundations, core, and transition to practice. The reason I ask that is because the individual residents progress at different paces, they may be doing EPAs in a different phase than what they're actually registered in. And if we specify, say, foundations, and there's core EPAs that we want our committee to review, will they see those EPAs
Yep,
if
they'll
we are
see,
naming them?
they will see the EPAs, and you don't have to even name it. Like, so I think what you are thinking is that if you say that the review period is July 1st to September 30th and they are registered in stage 1, but they skipped ahead and did some EPAs from stage 2, will the committee in general be able to see that information in the dashboard and the learner summary report? Definitely.
Correct.
And also you can name your competence committee reviews whatever you like. So if the stage that the resident is in really doesn't matter, you don't have to call it by a stage. Like if your reviews are time based, so every September, January, April, our competence committee meets and we review everybody, then you can name your templates by those particular dates, like whatever is kind of helpful to be organized for your program.
Okay,
And it
that
doesn't
makes a
have
lot
any
of sense.
bearing, yeah, it doesn't have any bearing on like what is being viewed in the dashboard.
Yes, because what will get complicated, and I'm sure for other programs too, is the fact that so many residents were delayed due to COVID. So they're all going to be at different time points in the process. I wouldn't want a template not to be practical in terms of what was being reviewed. So that's very helpful. Thanks, Chantal.
No problem.
I have a question.
Okay.
So when the assigned template files
Go ahead.
and you can download that document, does it automatically upload again?
It doesn't. So they would have to download it, open it on their computer, fill it out, save that file to their computer, and upload it. And so we actually launched this dashboard for family medicine. It was originally designed for them when they were getting a CBME module created for them because they have very, different curriculum than Royal College programs. And so we launched it for them in September, and we actually got a lot of feedback that there are lots of faculty who don't know how to like click on a link and open a document and save it to their computer and re-upload it. I was actually like very blindsided by it. I did not think that that was going to be a challenge for people. And out of everything launching, like they have 200 residents, they did 200 reviews, and like everything went so perfectly well except for this one step. So we may have a change in that process, but I really wanted to wait to put it out to Royal College programs to see if you guys have issues with it and your faculty have problems with it. And then, if that's the case and people just really can't get used to it and it's a barrier, then we'll think of something new. Like we've brainstormed ideas, like maybe you click it and it takes you into a MedSIS form as opposed to a file. I mean, that all takes resources, and then we need somebody responsible in MedSIS to create and manage everybody's forms and that sort of thing. So, there are solutions and there's options, but just be aware that that could be a challenge you might face.
It's good to know because we already have that challenge. So
Yeah.
that's why I was like, is this going to be automatic? Because
Yeah.
So it's good to know. My other question is with that template, it's a document that you can download. Is it also possible to put a link, or does it have to be a document?
It does have to be a document, like an actual file. I mean, I guess you could put a link in a Word document and upload that and have people click on it and click the link, you know, if that's going to be more useful.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Think it through.
Anybody else? Okay, so I'm going to share again. Okay, so I am logged into MedSIS. And again, like I mentioned, you guys have this curriculum button available to you, and this is where your CBME module is. And now when you click in there, hopefully I didn't time out here. So now when you log in here, you'll see that you have some, I'm logged into my account, so you'll see a few more menu items on my screen than you'll see on yours, but you will have one that's called requirement checklist. And then you'll see the tabs at the top. So first you want to go in and you want to create your review period. So I am just going to name it, you know, July 1 to September 30th, 2020, and then I'm actually going to pick those dates, July 1st to September 30th, and I'm going to pick my program, otolaryngology, and save. And so that's how you would do it. And, you know, if you already know what all of your review periods are, you could go in one shot and kind of populate them all in there. You'll only have access to your own review periods. You can see I have some for family medicine here as well. It's just because of my access has no restrictions. And then again, if you go under requirement, you'll see your program's requirements that are there. And so if I click add new, and I'm going to say coach report, and this is for my program otolaryngology, and save it. And so you can see that I have, you know, and your list can be as, you know, as few or many as are needed for your program. So once you've got your review periods and your requirements, you're going to go back up to this program curriculum. And this is the screen I was telling you that you'll see like everybody's program listed. This is like this is where I like live in the CBME module. This is where I set up all your EPAs and requirements. This is kind of where all of the action happens. So we've opened it up to you guys to have access to do your competence committee review dashboard. So you search up your program, you click on it. Just as an FYI learning path, this is where all of your EPAs get imported and where I do all of my work. And then under requirement checklist is where you'll create your template. So it's going to look blank like this, and you would say add new checklist, and you will give it a name. So like Wendy, in your case, if it's very date-based, then you can call it by a date. If it's stage-based, like in family medicine, it's a 2-year program, and every resident is going to have 6 reviews, and they all take place at the exact same time. So they call theirs like PGY 1 initial review is what they name theirs. And I want this to be the first review that's on my resident's dashboard. And I'm going to pick the review period time that this is applicable to. And then I will save it, and then there it is. And so now I just click on it, and you can see it's empty. And now I want to start adding in, okay, for my initial PGY1 residents, what are all of the things that need to go into this review? This is likely something you communicate with your PD or CBME lead. So requirement, again, these are all my requirements that I already made. So I'm going to pick learner summary report, who is responsible for this. I'm going to say the program administrator, so you guys can go in and you can run a report for a certain date period, you know, whatever you're trying to look at here, and then you can upload it. You don't upload it here, this is only for templates, but I'll show you how to upload it to the residence file when we get there. and I'm going to say sequence 1. It's the first step in the review, and then I will go through and continue to add my requirements here. So it's the coach report, the coach is responsible for it. This can be step 2, and then maybe I want to attach my file to it. Do I have anything? Okay, so I can take this as a fake document, but you can see here, like you can drag and drop it in, or you can click there and it will bring up your file computers, you know, kind of like if you're attaching a document to an email, and then you save. And you go through until you get through all of the requirements that are part of your review. So this one, maybe I'll give a due date and say November 10th, and I'll just drop that same file in there and save it. So now it looks like this. Okay, my initial PGY1s, they only have 3 things that need to be reviewed. This is good to go. Now I can apply it to my residents. I'm going to go back out of here and click these little 3 dots, and if you click on it, just be careful when you're clicking here. If you click delete, it will delete this. If you click edit, it's just letting you edit the details. So if you decide, oh, I didn't name it something that's very good, you know, you can go in and do that. So we will do assign, and then I just changed a resident's name in here to apply it to. So you can click 1 or several residents, and I only picked Queen Victoria because that's the street that I live on. It's not anything to actually do with Queen Victoria, but okay, so we've assigned it to our resident, and now we want to go see this checklist in that resident's dashboard. So you're going to go to your learner curriculum screen. You're going to search up your resident. You know, I was working with the otolaryngology program. For anybody who is part of surgical programs, you know that your residents are registered into 2 learning paths. They do their surgical foundations and they do their home program EPAs. So I set this up for otolaryngology. So that's the learning path I'm going to look at. And then we will scooch over to the review dashboard, and voila. Everything that we wanted to be part of this review is here. And so this is exactly what you see, your resident sees, your coaches see, and your competence committee members will see. And then what happens is the security for these files is based on the role. So this is why I said you guys can't touch these roles or rename them. They're actually tied to a security access. So see how we have the resident reflection report is assigned to the trainee and they have their file here. They would download it. So you would just click here and download. Your document's going to open. You know, just like it would on anything else, and then you are going to fill it in and file. You know, I'll just save it back to my computer. And then what they do is they click on here and it opens up the requirement, basically like the same way that you had originally made it. You picked the requirement, who's responsible, you gave it a due date, and what the resident would do is they are going to come and drop their finished file into here, and they're going to check off like, yes, this step is done, I'm finished with it. Let me click it. Okay, of course, it's not working for me right now, but I'm in a test environment, so in the actual like normal MedSIS, it will work. But basically, they check off like, yes, I've completed this, and then they would save it, and then you'll see their completed file, the last updated, and by toggling that little switch to yes, it will mark this off with a check mark to say that it's done. And the resident can't go in and like upload or like modify any other files that are here. So their access is tied only to like their specific requirement. And it's the same program admins and PDs. I think in like competence committee members have access to everything, but the resident will only have access to their particular role. I actually also believe the coach like cannot go in and change files over here for the trainee either, but a program admin, competence committee member, and PD have full access to do anything. So that's how everybody will see it. So if you're the trainee, you want to take your template, you fill it out, you want to upload the finished one back up, you just click on the requirement and you can drag and drop it in there. And same with the coach. They're going to click on their specific requirement and they're going to drag and drop or, click to upload their completed file. So what you should see at the end of the day is all of these files here, everything should be populated, all of the steps will be complete, and you'll see a history of when things were modified. For the learner summary report, so for example, say you uploaded the learner summary report. So as the program administrator, you're going to go generate the learner summary report and you are going to drag and drop it. Oops, I did that wrong. You're going to drag and drop it in here and you're going to save it. And then what will happen is your committee members and coaches can come in here and they can click on this file and it will download it and open it for them to view. So that's an example of like what you would do with your learner summary report. You'd go generate it under the summary report tab. You'd come here and you would upload it and then everybody has access to look at it. And then what I guess you would decide within your program, I don't know for you guys, like kind of who manages these types of details, like who would track the meeting date and the status and, the purpose of the meeting, regular review, the outcome was continue in current stage, promotion is not applicable, and then you save it. You can also see here at the bottom, there's a history. And it's not working in this test environment, but it works well and it will show you who on what day like modified anything as part of this checklist. And I actually asked for an enhancement, which is not there yet, but if someone were to come in and like delete one of these requirements from the list or anything like that, it will track anything that kind of gets added, removed, modified, deleted, all within this history section. So it's working, I think, for everything except like if something got deleted. So if you went in here and decided that the learner summary report was no longer part of this and it got deleted, like nobody has a way to know. I wouldn't be able to say, oh, so-and-so, like you went in here and deleted this on this particular day. I think that one's important. So we're enhancing it to record that. And then I talked about, if this resident was a special circumstance resident and they had additional things that needed to be reviewed, this is where you would go over here to the right-hand side and click on Add Requirement. And again, it's going to take you right to that setup screen. So, you're going to pick from your list that you already have. And you're going to say who is responsible for it, if there's a due date, the sequence for it, if there's a template or not, and then you'll save it. And now it's only applicable to this resident's PGY1 initial review, not for anybody else. And then, this works the same way, like, we created this template and we only added it to one resident. Likely when you do this, you're going to create a template and add it to many residents. If you had a special circumstance situation where the resident needed like a completely different review, like maybe it's actually not even a competence committee review meeting, like maybe it's another very important meeting or special circumstance meeting that needs to happen. I mean, you could potentially put it in here, if it kind of makes sense and the meeting is organized in a similar fashion. But you could go in and back into your templates, go into your program, under your checklist, and you could add a new checklist, and you would create it and you could assign it to just one resident. So it's only there for that one resident. Or, you know, if your resident goes on some kind of has extended training and, you know, say a resident is typically reviewed twice during their core stage. Maybe this resident has to get reviewed 3 times or 4 times. Then, you know, you can add additional reviews in here just to that one particular resident over and over again. So it's quite flexible. So right now you do have to go in and create the template and assign it, you know, through this bulk assignment. But what we're actually going to do is right on the resident review dashboard screen, we're going to add a button. So right now we can add a requirement to this particular review. We're also going to add a button that says like add a review to this resident just for convenience. And so when you click it, your list of templates will come up and you can assign a template to that particular resident. Is there any questions?
Hey,
Anything that I
Chantal.
can go over again? Hi.
It's Kimmy. I just had a couple questions.
Sure.
So what you just talked about, would it be a useful space for when our PD has their individual resident meetings to record it on here?
I mean, you can. It's really like up to your program. So it's like, is it going to be helpful to have it all in one place, or is it going to bog it down and like you really want to keep competence committee stuff separate from resident PD meetings? You know, like the functionality is there and kind of however you want to use it. The only thing I will say is like if you have to come up with these requirements and you have to assign somebody who is responsible. And you know, we only have these 4 roles, which is like administrator, coach, trainee, and competence committee member. So again, you know, like I guess you could if it makes sense.
Okay. And then I had a second question.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're looking at the review dashboard at our CC meetings, we'll still have access to review the supporting documentation tabs as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And so for like something I'll say, like the intention behind the difference between having the review dashboard and the supporting documentation is the review dashboard is really like those like main important competence committee review documents. So we don't necessarily want it to get bogged down with a ton of supporting documentation. So if there's like 10 files in supporting documentation that need to go into the review, like I don't know that it makes sense to just like duplicate your supporting documentation section. Like the idea is that you come here and you're very specific, like reports, letters, that sort of stuff lives here, and you still have your supporting documentation for, you know, the resident had to submit some kind of report as for part of one of their EPAs that they had to do, or, you know, one of their EPAs had to do with like a QI project, or, you know, like those kind of day-to-day stuff we still want to keep in supporting documentation. I know supporting documentation, I've heard from many of you, is just like not the most ideal format, and it will get enhanced, but we needed to get this done first before we can enhance that. And we'll try and kind of think of some streamlined ways to, you know, create a folder in supporting documentation that's called PGY1 initial review. And we can put all the documents in there that, you know, like should be reviewed by the coach. And then maybe there's a link in here that takes them right to that folder, or, you know, something fancy along those lines that will be helpful. But yeah, in terms of supporting documentation and review dashboard documents, ideally keep those things separate so neither one gets bogged down.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, Chantel, I have a question.
Okay.
Can the resident review everything that's in this dashboard,
Yes.
in this tab? Okay.
So yes, so everything looks like what you're seeing here is exactly what it looks like for everybody. So, you know, just the same as supporting documentation, if there is something that is like very highly confidential that nobody should be seeing, don't put it in here.
Okay. Thanks.
No problem.
I have a question. It's Pascal again.
Okay.
So I know we could put in due dates, but did I hear you correctly saying that no notification goes out to the person about that due date, correct?
Correct. There's no notifications that are linked to it right now.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to go to the website for 1 second.
Actually, I do have one more question, sorry.
Sure.
After we've done committee reviews, our department sends a letter to the resident to say what we reviewed. Would this be a good location to keep that? So instead of sending them a letter, they can just access it here?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Okay, so on our MedSIS website, we have a section for training and there is a CBME section. We are revamping our website. And so you'll see that now that we have Royal College and Family Medicine on the CBME module, there are, different documents and resources depending on where you come from. And then there's some generic ones. So the best way I could do it now is just to preface the file name with whether it's applicable to Royal College Family Medicine or it's a general document. We are going to change the format of the website. So it's going to look something more like this. So when you're under your program administrator section, you'll see like general and you can expand, and you'll see Royal College and expand and family medicine. So we're actually in the midst of working on that right now. So, if you go in there today, it will look one way. If you go in there probably a week from now, it will look different. I'll probably send an email out to everybody because we've got all these new enhancements and the new tabs, and you've seen the emails come out from Allison and Lisa about changes to MedSIS. So I've updated so many documents, and I've been waiting for this to get finished before I can re-upload them. But just keep an eye out to the website. It might be worth it to just refresh your faculty and committee members that we have new enhancements and our guides and stuff have been updated. And I can even link, a couple of like very specific ones that would be the most useful to them. But just want to let you know about that. But I will, under the CBME section, even before our, new format comes out, under administrators, I will put those slides up there for you about this. And if anything comes up when you're trying to set these up for your program, just email the MedSIS account and those emails will come to me, and I'm happy to help you guys. Okay, if that's it, thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you. It looks great.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Chantel. Bye.
Bye.